Hey everyone, I'm Tammy Mack and welcome to my channel where I interview Canadian entrepreneurs and share information about Canadian made products. Today I have a special guest on here who I'm very honored to have. Her business is called Dani+Mani. I have known her for almost 20 years and she has thrived every year since I have met her, and so much more so through the last year when COVID hit this planet. She has brought her business from a basement online only to having a store in the city and just has grown substantially. Please welcome Rochelle. All right. I can't even tell you how excited. I've been sitting here for 10 minutes getting ready for this interview and I'm just so excited because not only I just love everything that you stand for with your business today, but we're going on almost knowing each other for 20 years.
I know, isn't that crazy?
It blows my mind. And
yeah.
There's something about you today versus like when I first met you almost 20 years ago. You're the same. You're the same. You're passionate about the same things. You stand for the same things. You're just able to do it in a whole other dimension. And I'm super honored for you to be here today.
This is my pleasure. It's absolutely my pleasure. I love it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm actually wearing one of your comfy t-shirts.
Oh, awesome.
I every once in a while I wear I'm slowly collecting creating a collection, and I'll wear work and they'll be like, oh, where's that from? I'm like, my Dani+Mani store. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to go on that website, or I need to go visit her store.
Yes, of course.
You're like, it's so cute.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah. So let's begin. Tell us about you. Like, who is Rochelle? Where are you from?
Oh my goodness. Well,
that's a big question.
You know, you've known me for a long time, so you know that I can also talk a lot.
Yeah.
So feel free to stop me at any time, because I can I can throw in a lot of detail or not as much detail. But so basically I grew up in St. Paul. My parents, I have an older brother, 15 months older than me. I lived there till I was 18. My parents have been entrepreneurs their whole adult lives, and that's just sort of in me. So, you know, in high school, I would make these little businesses like waxing. I don't know if you remember that.
Sitting on your countertop.
Oh my gosh, I even broke I spilled wax at my parents' house, broke their table, but it was just like that, you know, entrepreneurial spirit in me. It's just always been there, right? So, but it's all I've ever known. My parents have always done that. So then when I was actually wanting to go travel, I wanted to go work on a cruise ship right out of high school. And then I started playing hockey, and I got a call from Red Deer College saying, well, why don't you come try out for the women's hockey team? So I was like, oh no, does this mean I'm not going to go travel? Because once you start school, you know, do you quit to go travel? So I'm like, well, no, I can't pass on the opportunity to go try out for a women's hockey team. So I did that. I didn't like the program I was in. I started in oops, sorry, that's my loud phone here. But I started off in hospitality and tourism because I wanted to travel. I didn't know what I wanted to do at 18. I kind of knew I wanted to have a business, but I wanted to travel first, so badly. So I thought, okay, I'll go into travel, hospitality and tourism. It'll give me an opportunity to travel. Went and played for the women's hockey team, did not like the program. However, there was a lot of things that set me up for the business side of things. I took accounting, marketing, because the idea with this program is you were going to run a hotel one day. Which is, again, not what I thought it was going to be. But so I thought, okay, well, no, I'm not going to do that. I want to take business, because one day I want to own my own business. So I went to Grant MacEwan, that's kind of when you and I met. Went to U of A, and into my third year, they're like, what major do you want to do? And I was like, what do you mean major? So you know, you take your marketing, accounting, all those things. And I thought, okay, well, accounting is my best mark, the class I enjoy the most. So let's take accounting as my major. So then as I'm going into my fourth year, they say, well, what designation do you want to do? And again, I was like, what? Like, what do you mean, what designation? Like, back then it was CGA, CMA, and CA.
Yeah.
I'm like, whatever, throw me, a good challenge. And so I'm like, okay, I'll do a CA, take the CA route. So then I did my master's in Saskatoon. I got my CA designation, then got married, had some kids, but I was always like, it was always in me. Like I knew I wanted to have a business at some point because, like I some of the jobs that I've had, I've liked, and like for the last 10 years, I've basically been working for my dad. So it's been super flexible, but I want to be the decision maker, right? I want to have my own thing. Where like even just the financial part of it is my own thing. And so I like, I don't know, a couple years ago, I created a vision board. And on there, like, I mean, growing up, fashion and you know this too. I mean, like we loved, like you loved it too. I mean, we both loved it, like shopping and all that kind of stuff, right? And I love people. I used to work at ATB during university. I loved talking to people all the time. So I love the customer service. And I just loved listening to the things that people have done. It just always blew my mind. So anyway, so I've been working for my dad, made this vision board. I put a store on there and amongst a few other things. I was also on the board for YWCA Edmonton for 3 years. And what got me to that was the Women of Distinction Awards. So always been super passionate about gender equality, encouraging women to live out their dreams. And so did that for 3 years, but they had to cancel the Women of Distinction Awards. And I was devastated. Like I was just, oh my gosh, this can't end here for me. Like I need to be doing more of this stuff. So I tried to come up, they put me on like a subcommittee. I tried to come up with another way to recognize women. Financially, we just couldn't make it work for the organization. So, I had this vision board to start a store, and I thought, okay, with this store, I'm going to blog and write, like interview women. And so anyways, COVID hit and all that stuff. I'm probably going into too much detail, like for my background, but, and then that's when I thought, what am I blogging for? I'm an accountant. I don't write. I write, but like, writing is not my passion. I can speak for hours. So why not do Zoom interviews? So I started a Zoom thing, so similar to what you're doing, but interviewing women in particular and their stories and what they've done, and just their amazing, like the amazing stories of women right here in our community that nobody hears about, because women are so super humble and they don't brag about their accomplishments or what they're doing. So anyways, that's like sort of my background. But yeah, that's kind of my history.
Nice.
And to today.
So where do you live now, and how does it influence you and what you do?
Where I'm at now? Sorry, what was the question again?
Where do you live now, and how does
where I live? Okay. So, I live in Spruce Grove. So we moved to Spruce Grove 8 years ago because my husband worked out here forever, and just having 2 little kids, I needed to shorten his drive because I needed him home a lot sooner than what he was getting home at. So we live just outside the city. But like I said, growing up in St. Paul, 2 hours from the city, it's funny, like I'll never regret growing up in a small town. That it was such a fun community. I had such a great time. But I love the city. I love the access to the busyness. Well, I mean, everything's kind of paused right now, so it's hard to say that right now, but I just love being able to go to the mall, or being able to go shopping, or be able to go to a restaurant, or like, and a concert or anything like that, like the easy access to the city. So I love the city, and I knew I was never going to move far away from it. So going to a little suburb was like, the mix of that small town that I loved, but also having the access to the city. So, I think, I don't know so much of where I live now has had a huge influence on me, but growing up in that small town, like that has had a huge, so I think what influences me about where I live now is that it's kind of going back to my roots a little bit about being in that smaller community. And I have met some fantastic people here, and some of the people I've met here have lived here their whole lives. So, you know, they know, it's like, you know, when somebody comes up to me and says, or I meet somebody and I say I'm from St. Paul, and they say, oh, do you know Bob so-and-so? And it's like, yeah, actually I do. Or now I'm saying, who's their mom or who's their dad? Like my parents used to say that, but a lot of my friends have lived here for a long time, and they say that about Spruce Grove. So just that small town sense of community just continues to influence me and how I operate. And it's not, my customers are not another number. They've become my friends. I've had so many people who continuously shop here, and like I said, have become my friends, and I've gotten to know them, and it's more than a conversation. So like that, I guess in a way that's how it influences how I operate my store, is that that small community feel. It's not, I'm coming in to just buy a shirt. I'm coming in to have a conversation, to catch up with Rochelle, to do whatever, you know? So,
You're creating a community within a community.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. My Dani+Mani community. And I make reference to that all the time.
Yeah. So how did your dream of Dani+Mani begin?
Well, so like I said, like I've always wanted to own the business, right? Business. I wasn't like, if you would ask me, like when I was going to university, if you would ask me then, oh, you're going to open a clothing store? Like, no, because boutiques weren't really quite a thing at that time. So, you know, it's not like I was born and be like, yeah, I'm going to own a clothing store one day. Like that's not, you know, how it worked. But I knew I was going to own a business. I've always loved fashion, and I've always loved talking to people. So once the boutique thing started, I can't even really remember when that would have started, but I think I was just starting a family at that time. So it wasn't really like, in terms of timing, I mean, there's never a good time for anything, but like I knew it wasn't right at that point that I wanted to do it. But then when my kids were, you know, 4 or 5 years old, that's when I made that vision board, and I was like, no, I want to have a boutique clothing store, you know? So then what I did is a friend of mine asked me to go to Tony Robbins, and I love all that stuff. Like now that podcasts are a thing, I've been listening to podcasts like a ton. And so, so I had made the vision board in September of 2018, and I went to Tony Robbins in January 2019. I left there that day and I said to my friend, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Like, what am I waiting for? And at that point, my kids were, so that was what, 2 years ago. So 9 and 6. And they were still little, but I guess the other thing too that influenced me is I'd been working from home like for like 10 years. And my youngest had just started grade 1. The house was quiet. Like I needed noise. And my daughter was like, we had live out nannies and then, or else she'd only go to daycare, day home for a couple days a week. So there was always noise a few days a week in the house. And with the amount I like to talk and be with people, there wasn't enough noise. So I'm like, I need something out of the house now. And so, you know, I said to my friend, like, what am I waiting for? I need to do this now. It's now or never. Like there's, you know, again, what am I waiting for? So I was like, all right, well, I know the accounting side of things. So I'm going to go incorporate, I'm going to get a GST number, register my name, you know, all those things. And then just, you know, things started going and started figuring out the ordering of the clothes and all that stuff.
And I love the story behind the name Dani+Mani. So can you share how you...
So I knew that no matter what business in life that I was going to do, it was going to have something to do with women empowerment. And I feel like a lot of boutiques are doing that, which is great because there is never enough of people doing those kinds of things, right? And all minority things, like, and it's like, it's really starting to, the discussions are starting to be happened, I guess, in a lot of those issues. And, I always knew like it had I wanted it to be somehow like woman empowerment and just really, really encouraging women to live their dreams. So if that was going to be the case, I needed my name to be to reflect that.
Yeah.
But to also be my own and something that's not going to get replicated.
Yeah.
So, one night, this is like about, I'd say a couple weeks after I'd gone to that Tony Robbins, I was just took a piece of paper and a pen and, on the couch, I was doodling some names and I thought, well, to make it like meaningful to me and my family, maybe my kids' names, but like, my son's name is Gabriel, which in French we say Gabriel. So a lot of times at school, he's in French immersion, his name gets said Gabrielle, which is more like the female version. So not that it really matters, I guess, but I just didn't want to, I wanted my message to be super clear.
Yeah.
So then I thought, okay, well, I can't use my kids' names because if I only use my daughter's, it's not going to be fair to my son.
Yeah.
Then I thought, okay, well, my parents have really influenced me in everything they've done. So maybe I can use their names. Well, my dad's name's Harvey, and it just didn't flow again for all the same reasons as not using my own kids' names. And then I thought, well, you know what, the women in their lives were huge influences on them.
Yeah.
And then in turn, my parents were influences on me. So, indirectly. So then my one grandma's name is Diane and the other one is Madeline. So I just started kind of playing with the letters, and Dani+Mani came up. It was 4 letters each, short, it rhymed, it was catchy.
Yeah. It's
going to be my own, although there is a YouTube channel in the South somewhere that is called Dani+Mani, but I think they're done. I don't think they're pursuing it anymore, but otherwise, the name wasn't anywhere in Alberta or Canada, and Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff.
I love it.
Yeah. So my one grandma, though, she passed away when I was 5. So I can just imagine what kind of woman she was, though, through my mom.
Yeah.
And then my other grandma is still alive, and she's in an old folks home kind of thing. And I hope to interview her one day.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I think that would be so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So how did you grow your business? I followed you right from the get-go, so I know your story and where you started and where it's come to be today. So can you kind of share with us how your idea evolved into your store?
Okay, so so that after Tony Robbins, I did all the incorporation and all that financial and accounting stuff, and then started going to the buying shows. And the idea was, I always wanted a store as soon as I could, but I knew that I needed some cash flow in order to do that and to renovate a store. So I thought, well, there's so much online stuff, online presence in the boutique world, that I thought, why not start online? And then I'll go into a store, try to get some cash flow first and then go into a store. So I started working on my website, but holy cow, that is a lot of work.
It's an undertaking. Oh my God.
Especially when you don't know what you're doing. Me, I'm an accountant. I'm not an IT person.
Yeah.
And, I had hired somebody and it just wasn't going well. But in the meantime, I was doing private shopping parties in my basement.
Yeah.
So with my groups of friends, we'd have wine and snacks and those were going super well.
This was pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID,
yes.
So the days, how I wish we could go back.
Do you even know what that is anymore?
Right? I know. My gosh. So finally, though, when I incorporated and all that was February, I got my first shipment of clothing that June. I kind of did that all summer and in the fall. And then early January of 2020, 2020, my website was done because I finally just finished it myself.
Yeah.
I just learned Google, YouTube, asking questions. I was constantly on the help chat with the platform I was using. And so I just figured it out, launched the website. But online is not as easy as I think a lot of people think. You don't just launch and ding, ding, ding. No, it's total crickets. And so thank goodness for the basement shopping. And then I had done a few pop-ups, and pop-ups were starting to happen. Yeah. And so I thought, okay, this is good. And then I had started looking for a space. So January of 2020, I started looking. I thought I had found a space, actually not far from where I'm at now. I had done this huge like budget, and like, you know, Renee, my husband, had looked at like all the renos that would be needed and done all this work, submitted my proposal.
Yeah.
And then it was a polite no thank you. And I was crushed. I was devastated. I was like, what happened? Turns out one of their current tenants just took over a bigger space, but I didn't know that, right? So I was super crushed. So anyways, I thought, okay, well, now I've got a little bit of experience. So I looked at another place, didn't quite like it. And then I actually looked at the building I'm in, but just not quite this space, a different spot.
Yeah.
And 2 days later, 3 days later, the world shut down.
Yeah.
And I was like, I text the landlord, and I was going to bring my husband a couple days later. And I said, well, you know, I guess this is not happening. So do you want to just wait? And we were both like, sure, let's wait a couple of weeks. Cause that's when everyone was like, 2 weeks, let's shut down for 2 weeks. Right. So then that 2 weeks turned into a month, then turned into whatever. And, you know, the first couple of weeks of COVID, I was like, I was in tears, and I was like, what did I do to my family? I had just finished my buying for fall 2020. And that happens at the beginning of March. So usually you buy twice a year, and it's beginning of March and beginning or mid-September. So I knew all the bills that were coming, and even just all my spring orders. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to make this work?
This makes you sick.
Oh, I was like everyone else, I suppose, but I thought for sure, I'm like, what did I do to my family? Like, we're not gonna be able to afford this. we're gonna have to like, we're gonna lose our house. Like I was, because I had borrowed a lot of money from like our personal finances to get this business going.
Yeah.
So, but then I was like, you know, thank God for podcasts, and thank God I went to Tony Robbins and all those seminars and events, because it's set up like I was really working on my mindset for the last couple of years, and I still am and always will. But since I've learned to do that, I think I was mentally in such a better place than I would have been had I not done that. Like, I think I probably would have gave up. But I was like, and I mean, my husband's very much like that too. Like why, he'd always say, what's your why? Why are you doing this? And then I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, I know exactly why I'm doing this. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm not giving up. That's not in my vocabulary. Let's go live. Let's get on Facebook. And I just started doing these Facebook lives, and I felt the love.
They're amazing. Like, your personality and Renee's humor, like, you don't even have to drink to just, that was just pure entertainment every Thursday. It was awesome.
Well, and the best part though, I don't know if you remember this one, when I ran out of wine and my neighbor showed up. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was so awesome. But yeah, it was, you know what, I was, you know, I actually had not hardly been in front of the camera. I had done like no lives. I had done none of that. I would just post pictures because I was so afraid. I was just so afraid to get on video and show myself, right? Well, COVID changed. I had no choice. At that point, it was like, do you want to survive? Yes, I want to survive. Okay, you're going to go live. And I don't care.
Creative.
I had to get so creative. And so it, you know, and Renee was good. Like, his little giggles behind the camera, or like trying to tell me something. And I'm like, you know, trying to concentrate on what I'm saying, yet trying to listen to what he's saying. And oh my gosh. So
it was so good.
Was, whether people bought from me because they felt sorry for me, I don't care. I mean, it just, I felt the love, and I'm so thankful for those. Like, I remember that night, the first night after the live, and just seeing like orders coming through. And I was like, okay, that was the reassurance I needed, that I'm not quitting. It's not time to quit. And so I just kept doing that. And then the world started opening up a bit, and then I could like have people in my basement again, but like on a different scale. I wasn't giving food and drinks this time. It was just like purely to shop. Masks weren't mandatory yet. So I just kept on trucking. And then I got a call from a friend who I'd met through like my kids' dance. And she asked me if I wanted to set up a pop-up shop in her store because about 800 square feet of her store was meant for classes, like sign making classes, or like you drop in and make a sign.
Yeah.
And they couldn't do that anymore with COVID. So she's like, we want to use up this space. We want to have a market. Do you want to come and set up and with your clothes? And I was like,
yeah,
like as if I was going to say no, like what an opportunity. It went so well.
Yeah.
She's like, why don't you come back every second week in the summertime? Like it was a lot of work, but it was so worth it. And at this point, I had thought for sure, like my dreams of a store weren't going to happen for another year.
Yeah.
But you know, it was a tough summer. It was like I worked all the time. Renee helped so much. My parents would come and help me pack up hockey bags, you know, on a Monday. Then we'd go set up Monday night and then take down Friday night, and just back and forth, so much work. But then what I realized is that women want to touch and feel and try on their clothes most of the time if they can, right?
Yeah.
Online, I don't think you can go without it for sure, but I still think women want that experience of coming to the store and experiencing like the smell, the sound, you know, the touch and feel of the clothing, like all the things, right? So I was like, you know what, it's time to look for a space, and let's see if maybe things have changed. And because I had always been watching like the real estate in town, and you know, it's a small town, so there's not a whole, I mean, there's a lot, but like in my price range, there wasn't a whole lot. So, you know, then I was like, okay, I found this place that I'm in, and originally it was a bigger space, but what the landlord was willing to do is split it in two, like put up a wall and have one side for me and one side for another lady. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I kind of right then and there, you realize like, I mean, COVID sucks. And it's not like I ever wished it was here.
Yeah.
But you kind of start to think like, holy cow, like maybe like all of that was just meant to be. I was not ready in March when I wanted to do it. And the cash flow wasn't there really. So I don't know what I was thinking. I just was banking on being successful right off the bat. But you know, by September, I was able to build up some cash flow and pay for renovations and just have a little bit of a security net kind of thing. So, I found this place, and I'm super happy and super thankful. And I hope I just like expand so much that I need to find something bigger real soon.
Yeah, of course,
that's the goal.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You know, I've heard this so many times, and you probably have too, like, no matter what business you have, it's all about who you are and people falling in love with you, not necessarily your product. And I feel like you genuinely, I know that the term genuine gets thrown around quite loosely, but I feel like you are just you, and you're like, it's so easy to fall in love with you. It would be nothing to fall in love with your product and your business and what you stand for. And right from the get-go, like your basement videos that you're saying, like those were amazing. Those Thursday nights were great. And then, you know, you're posting on Instagram, and your kids every once in a while, they're popping in and out. And now you've got your store and you have an employee, and you guys have so much fun, and you're so creative in what you do, in everything you do. What inspires your creativity?
Well, it's so funny you say that, because I used to always say, I'm just an accountant, I'm not creative. Like I used to say that all the time.
That's awful.
And then I know, right?
That's negative self-talk.
But since I've done all the mindset work, it's when you say things or even think them, then you believe them, right? You believe your thoughts. And so I don't say that anymore. I'm like, damn rights, I'm creative. Like, and just because I'm an accountant doesn't mean I can't be creative. Like,
and you would never want to have those thoughts come out into words and that influence your kids' self-talk, right? Because they are soaking all of that in.
Totally. And my kids are freaking creative.
They
Thank God, because I use them in everything I do, especially Brianne.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I usually say she's my little marketing department.
Yeah.
But no, you know what? I guess just watching what other people do. I mean, because we all take from somewhere. Like,
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things that I think up, like I think of on my own, but there's little tidbits of inspiration, like a lot of online inspiration is where I get my stuff from. But now that like there's TikTok, there's Instagram, there's Reels, there's all these things, like, you know, you just watch one thing and then you're like, oh my gosh, we got to do that. And we'll do it this way or that way. Or like, it's just, you know what, it comes from everywhere. And honestly, like a lot of the podcasts I listen to, while I'm listening to them, I'm like, oh my gosh, we could do that too in this way. And it might be a podcast about nothing to do with clothing, nothing to do with the boutique industry. And it just, something pops into my head. And then, you know what, my employee, Courtney, is amazing. And it's funny because we work so good together, and we, like, it's almost, not that it's hard to get a word in edgewise, but like, I'll say something and she's like, oh yeah, and then this and this and this. And then I'm like, oh yeah, and then this, like all of a sudden, like 1,000 ideas just start piling up. And then we're like, okay, wait, we just got to like slow down, but we got to write this down and slow down and just do one little bit at a time. Cause we have so many ideas and we bounce so much stuff off of each other and get so many ideas. So
that's awesome.
I don't know. It just, and then I think my family too, like helps me with my creativity. Like, I mean, you know, Renee, he's so freaking funny most of the time. And so just like, you know, we get those hats in and I put it on, and I haven't worn hats very much, but they're awesome. And I love them now, but I put it on and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like Indiana Jones. So I'm like, there has got to be an Indiana Jones like TikTok out there. Totally. So we just found the song and we made this TikTok, and like, I think we did it all wrong because we were like playing with guns kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't think Indiana Jones did that. He had like a satchel, like, but whatever. Like, I think people got the idea, right? Like, so it's just, I don't know. I just, all of a sudden an idea will come and so. Yeah.
So you talking about how Renee and your kids are there that, you know, inspire you, and they have been like your rock and your support system. Who else would you want to give a shout out to who's been there for you? I know you mentioned your mom and dad were there quite a bit.
Well, you know, I've got a couple really good friends here in town that, you know, when I didn't have an employee, they were working for me. And we got creative in ways to pay them. I pay them with clothes. You know, because cash isn't there. So you got to get creative. And, you know, there's two in particular, my friend Terry and Carrie, which is so funny that Terry and Carrie, it's like they're a little duo. It rhymes. They should almost have their own TV show or something. But they helped out so much, like just to get me started. I'd go do a pop-up, they'd come with me, or Terry would come with me, or even just to the buying shows and support in terms of mindset, like big time, like cheerleaders, like truthfully cheerleaders. So yeah, like I couldn't have, you know, started all of this without them. And then of course, I mean, Renee's built this whole place or renovated it all, like, and I'll say like, hey, I need a table for my jeans or something. And I show him a picture on Pinterest and I'm like this one. And he goes and builds it. Like, he's just so handy that way. And then of course, my mom and dad, because I just say I need help here and then they come and they do it. And then my friends, Pam and Christy, you know them too. They've helped out a ton. So
nice.
I have like the small little circle, and just thank God I do. Because
well, it takes a team to build anything successful.
For sure. For sure.
So what's the most impactful lessons you learned in 2020?
Well, to boil it down to one would be hard, but I think, like, I was thinking about this, and I think the biggest thing that I have learned is, and I don't know, well, it's a combination of learning it from COVID and learning it from all my podcasts and mindset work and all that, but it's to not quit.
Yeah.
Like quitting is not even in my vocabulary. It's not going to happen. I will find a way. And I have done that a couple times in 2020, in terms of keeping, like, staying afloat in March, and then all of a sudden doing pop-ups and all that, and to opening a store. Like, it's just not an option for me. I've kind of always been that way, but I'm really like, that's my biggest thing now is I'm not quitting. And I would encourage it's hard to say, don't quit, or, but it's just a mindset that I would encourage everyone to have, or to work towards.
Yeah. And find something that they can always remember or remind themselves as to why they started to begin with, what they want out of it, right? Yeah. Because I always think about, how do you want to feel in the end? So how would it make you feel if you followed through and, saw it through? Or how would you feel if you quit and never saw it through? And, there would be too many what ifs and regrets.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And actually, one of the podcasts I was listening to today, there's this nurse, it wasn't the nurse in the podcast, but they were making reference to this nurse who had interviewed, she was a hospice nurse or hospice care, I think it's called. And she interviewed, like, I think 100 or thousands, I don't even know how many seniors who were about to die, and what was their biggest regret in life. And it was not doing what they wanted to do. And even just today, I'm like some days sales are really hard. They're low. And especially January, February, it was like, oh my gosh, like, not good. What, is this going to keep going? Is this COVID? Is this January, February? Like, what's the deal here? But I was like, you know what? Like, that's how I have to think, even because it's so scary to fail. It's scary it's the embarrassment factor. Like, if I have to close shop, like, I can just hear people saying, see, like, look, oh, she never made it, or blah, blah, blah. But I was like, today in particular, I'm like, who cares? Like, I'm doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
And there's still so much more I want to do. Yeah. So I'm not quitting. I'm not like, I don't want to go to any other job right now, because this is what I want to do, and I don't want to have any regrets.
Yeah. Well, and there was that poem. So over the last 4 or so years, both my grandparents have passed, and at their funerals, they said that poem about the time between your dash. And that's not just, you can't take that lightly. Like, that's a real thing. Like, if we all, like the shirt says in the back, it says she designed a life she loved. Like, that you need to have that. Like, you don't want to be, on your deathbed or in the end and have no spark lit up inside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why, when I was starting to do it and I went to Tony Robbins, I was like, what am I waiting for? Like, really, what am I waiting for? There's never, ever, like, and you think about, like, having kids, for instance, it's like, well, let's just wait till this.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know, like, you can't predict everything, to be accurate, or what's going to happen. So you just do it. You just got to do it. Go for it.
Yeah, for sure. So for anybody who's interested in looking at, say, opening a business or trying to take that leap, so other than also your lesson that you learned from last year, what's something that you could share with them that now that you wished you'd known at the beginning that may help them?
Well, that's a tough question, because, like, I really don't know if there's anything I would have wanted to know. I guess there's one thing, which I'll get at in a second, but everything that I went through, I needed to go through to get to where I'm at.
Yeah.
So I don't think there would have been anything that I could have been told to speed things up or to make it easier.
Right.
Because I would have needed to learn it at some point or figure it out at some point. But I guess one thing I would say is that it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard, but just don't, it goes back to that giving up. Like, just don't give up, but just here's the warning. It's going to be hard, but just mentally prepare yourself, knowing it's going to be hard, but it's okay. Like, it's okay that it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
I know that's not like,
no, that's real.
Like,
that's
real. Go get your registration number or your GST number. It's nothing like that, but it's just knowing that it is going to be hard. And so if you're going through hard days, and I still do all the time. And I have a coach, a life/business coach, and I message her a lot saying like, oh my gosh, what's going on? But it's not just hard for me, for you, for so-and-so, it's hard for everybody. And it takes hard work to get to where you want to go. So to just remember that.
Yeah. And to, go after your passion and go after your goals, you're going to have a roller coaster ride of emotions throughout the whole experience, because if it's not from at the beginning, it's when it's at each phase that you grow or expand or change or evolve.
That's right.
Yeah, you're gonna experience everything. And it's kind of like raising kids. You can tell them what not to do, but they have to experience that themselves. They have to go through those tough times and figure it out.
It's hard.
Yeah. And I guess maybe, for me, looking and seeing in your experience, probably what helped a lot is your support system. So for anybody who's looking at taking a leap of faith in themselves, make sure you're surrounded with the right people.
And ask for help. Yeah. Like, it's okay to ask for help. Like, the worst you're going to get is no.
Yeah.
Go ask someone else.
And you're always going to get a no. There's going to be no's throughout your whole life. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, that I get no's all the time, whether it's, do you want to join our email list? Well, no, thank you. Or do you want, or can we carry that brand? No, you can't, because it's already here or whatever, like, there's no's happening all the time. And sometimes they really hurt. And sometimes it's like, oh, okay, like a bit of a shock, but how are you going to know if you don't ask, or if you don't try, or it's never going to happen if you don't reach out. Yeah. And again, the worst they're going to say is no, right?
Yeah. And it's really hard to, in the moment, to not take it personal, but it's really not personal.
Exactly. It's really hard not to take it personal in the moment, but but you're right. It's 99.9% of the time it's not personal. It's not
personal. Yeah. So what's the next steps for Dani+Mani?
Well, so I kind of alluded to this, at the beginning, about my interviewing, because that, like I said, when I was at the YWCA and they canceled the Women of Distinction Awards, and then I headed a subcommittee to try and come up with another way to recognize women. And then we did all this work, we made a business plan for another way, and that got kiboshed too. I shouldn't say kiboshed, it just got, because of the funding, the money wasn't there in the not-for-profit, which I understood and it made sense. But that day I cried the whole way home. That's how passionate I was about sharing these women's stories, because when I go to those things like the Women of Distinction Awards or the Women of Vision Luncheon or the Women in Wealth Gala, which was the very last event I went to before COVID shut everything down, and it was amazing. Just anything like that, I get goosebumps, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, these women are incredible, and where are they? And I want to give those same goosebumps to other people. I want to inspire other women. Yeah. Just as much as I was inspired. And every time I go to these events, and now they're all virtual, but I'm still going to them. Yeah. I get so inspired and amazed at what these women have done. Yeah. And so
and what they've gone through to get there.
And what they've gone through which is always good to hear, because the world of Instagram and all these things, it shows the highlights of our life and not necessarily the bad things, right? So it appears that they're just getting to this great place super fast, but that's not the case. Yeah. It's always hard. So, so I started the YouTube channel during COVID, where I've interviewed women like this, you're doing now with me. And then I had done a couple of them, but then I had to kind of I just got so busy. I just couldn't handle it all. And then we opened the store. And so to really get things going, our 12th day of giveaway for Christmas, the winner got part of it was they were getting interviewed. So I interviewed them. I actually just launched those interviews yesterday on our YouTube channel.
Oh, I'll have to go check them out.
Yeah. They're amazing. So that's kind of the plan, the goal. Is to get more interviews done, post them on YouTube. But the ultimate goal is to get a podcast. So it's, and then grow, of course. I mean, I want to like bust through the walls here and just get in, eventually one day get into a bigger space because I need the space or whatever it is. So just lots of growing and just really, like get the YouTube interviews and get a podcast going.
It has been months and months since I've been to the city, but I can't wait to check your store out.
I know. I mean, it seems odd to think that you haven't been here for months and months, but I get it. I didn't even go to Edmonton for like the longest time because we had no reason to. All the kids' stuff was shut and all that. So no, I totally get it. And, I've had a lot of people tell me that like, oh man, I really want to come to your store, but my, like they'll be from Sherwood Park or Edmonton or whatever. And they're like, but my kid's not playing any sports. So I don't have a reason to go there, but it'll pick up again. And,
for sure.
I trust in the process. And I figure if I can hammer through COVID, then I should be able to make it go in regular times. But.
So where can people find you? You're on Instagram. You've got a whole bunch of places. So where can they find you? And then I'll also include the links on.
Okay. So of course we have our website. So just DaniandMaddie.com. And then, so I'll kind of move over. You can see like the plus sign between the Dani and Maddie, but all my platforms are the actual A&D. So like our website is DaniandMaddie. Same thing with Instagram. It's Dani and Maddie. Facebook is Dani and Maddie. Our YouTube is Dani and Maddie, all one word. Because the Dani and Maddie with spaces has already been taken, like I said earlier. And I know. And then we do have TikTok, but it's my personal name, Rochelle Dubois, but it is public. But most of the time whenever we do a TikTok, I then share it on our Instagram. So awesome. Those are where we're at right now. And hopefully soon I'll be saying a Dani and Maddie podcast.
I'm excited. I'm a podcast fanatic. Like every day I'm listening to something.
Me too. What's your favorite?
Oh my God. I love Lori Harder and Chris Harder. So they're a couple, but they have their own. They've been I follow them religiously and have been for like almost a decade.
That is crazy because my coach is really good friends with them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so she introduced me to their podcast because my coach did a mastermind with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's going on my vision board is to do a mastermind with them one day. That like they're just phenomenal couple.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And then I just started following. Well, my brother opened or has a podcast, so he has
really?
Yeah. So there's a couple, but those two, they have been like I've been religiously following them for a decade.
Yeah. And actually, I saw your brother. I ran into your brother at. It wasn't Tony Robbins, but it was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes.
But it was the same idea as Tony Robbins.
I
don't know if I'm sure he told you that.
He did. He's like, oh my God, guess who I ran into? Oh, that's awesome. So in closing, just one fun question. So if you had to create a slogan for your life, what would it be?
So normally these kinds of questions I find really hard to come up with just, a couple words, but just, it's funny the creative question comes back here because the other day I was similar to when I came up with the name Dani and Maddie. I was thinking, okay, what would I name my podcast? Because I really want to get this rolling soon, right? So I'm like, well, what am I doing with my podcast? Well, I'm inspiring women. Like I want to inspire women, like not necessarily me, myself, and I and my words, but using the interview platform to inspire women from other women, right? So I'm like, okay, inspire. And then I was trying to think of stuff that rhymes. But anyways, at the end of the day, it came to me. And I would say my current slogan at this point in my life is desire to inspire.
Yes, I love it. I love it. This was such an awesome time. Thank you so much for being on my podcast.
You're welcome.
Share this with everyone and can't wait for people to start following you and check your store out and do some shopping.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Message us anytime, and I can't wait to have you in the store. I can't wait for you to come check it out.
Yes, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Thank you so much for tuning in to my channel. And if you love what you see and want to see more, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and comment below with a recommended company who you feel deserves to be the spotlight on my channel. Peace.